I think we can probably agree most people love payday. No shame in that, right? But companies might be thinking twice if the only thing pulling people into work every day is a direct deposit. As a strategic advantage, some companies also think about growth, innovation, and longevity by connecting people. And that connection, that's company culture. I'm Stephanie Matisse with At Work with Howard Levitt. You probably know Howard's popular columns in the Financial Post. This is the companion piece where we dig deeper and offer you practical takeaways and unforgettable stories. And today we're talking about when company culture becomes Exhibit A. Howard, you've been at this a long time. Tell me about the growth of company culture as a consideration for employers.
When I started practicing law, there was no such thing as company culture. At least every company had a culture, but no one established it, created it, bragged about company culture. And now most companies have a playbook. They have codes of ethics. They have distinguishing characteristics with the CEO broadcast through the email addresses, what he broadcasted with town hall speeches, what he brags about. That's the company culture, and they're very different. Two major clients in my career have been Rogers and Shaw, and they're both wildly successful companies. Now they're one company because Rogers bought Shaw, but they had very different company culture, and it drove everything about both of them.
Why do they want it?
Because it's what they think is one of the recipes for success.
I think some companies even see it as a competitive advantage, and they talk about what strong culture looks like and how those shared values or priorities and goals will fuel performance. If you look at Google and Netflix, they seem to prioritize employee trust and autonomy. Patagonia is purpose-driven, Airbnb is about belonging, something like that. This all sounds really positive, but you see a caveat?
Well, it can be positive, unless it's BS. Every speech, every aspect of the code of conduct can be used by me as a lawyer acting for an employee saying, you didn't do any of this. You didn't live up to your own playbook. Your culture is hypocritical. And by the way, what you've said are contracts, representations that we can rely on to sue you for not upholding and to get additional damages. If you hadn't said them at all, you'd be much, much better off.
That's why you're calling it Exhibit A.
Sure, it's Exhibit A in my case against that company for saying something that was disingenuous.
Do you have any examples you can think of?
Many. So let me give us a bit of a merged example. Companies talk about being transparent, open, progressive, and then they're secretive, concealing, hypocritical, tough. And you get to court, and it's not merely that the person's been wronged. They've been wronged in a way that is entirely inconsistent with what the company brags they are.
Right.
And they say, well, we're not that person. Then why did you say you were? Becomes what we say in court. And the court will then not just award the normal wrongful dismissal damages, they award additional damages for the company's lying, dishonesty, leading this person out on a branch and then chopping it off so they fall to the ground by their own promises that were duplicitous at the end of the day. I see that in many cases. I'm merging cases and giving that example. It's not one case, but many, where that sort of theme arises.
And you see the broadcasting of company culture as a personal risk, maybe, for those at the top of the companies.
Sure, because the CEOs are the ones talking about it. And if you can expose the CEO as a hypocrite, then it's not just wrongful dismissal damage. Let me explain this. When a client comes to see me, and my job is to get them as much money as possible, I don't just look at what a case is worth. I look at the company's vulnerability. And the biggest vulnerability runs to the CEO. So I look at what has the CEO said or done which is inconsistent with what my clients experienced, and what leverage do I have on the company by making that a public issue, because court cases are public. So that's what I focus on, and that's the pressure point, and that's my leverage, because that could be worth several times what a simple wrongful dismissal set of damages are worth. If the company's leadership is going to be exposed, CEO is going to be exposed as a fraud, fundamentally, then the company will give unlimited amounts of money to keep that case quiet.
So what advice do you have for the CEO in this case?
Well, the CEO should be careful what they say. They should not simply Google copies of mission statements and post them as their mission statement.
Or AI.
Or AI. They should say, is this who we are? Not merely who we aspire to be. Because if it's who you aspire to be, work on that until you're there before you post it as who you are. Get a mission statement consistent with your personality. Don't get one that looks good on paper and sounds good in the media, but is inconsistent with who you really are. Look, almost any personality can be merged into a positive mission statement. It might be tough and cutthroat. That might be great for that particular company, depending on the nature of the company. It might be soft and warm and fuzzy. That might be great for the nature of that company, depending on who the CEO is and whether or not the company culture resonates with that. But get it right. Get something you're going to live by. Otherwise, everything you do inconsistent with that will be exhibits A, B, C, D, and F.
And what about for employees? What advice do you have?
If you're being treated in a way inconsistent with what the company broadcasts itself to be, then make copies of everything. Everything. The mission statements, the company's paper, the company's speech. Document what's going on that's inconsistent with that. Give your lawyer the evidence they need to prove the company's being disingenuous and they're not who they say they are, because that's worth a lot.
Do you recommend doing away with company culture entirely? Does it still have a potential for success for companies and CEOs?
I think the company culture could be very, very helpful. I think every company should have a defined culture. That's one of the advantages over other companies. They just have to make sure it's who they really are and something they can live up to. It's what inspires people. It's what makes them join one company rather than another company. But just do it. Walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk.
And it's part of pride also, I think, for employees to be able to say, I'm proud to work there because this is who we are. These are our values.
And when you act inconsistently with those values, you're not just creating a series of lawsuits against yourself. You're driving away your current employees who came there because of who you were, and you're ensuring you can't attract good candidates.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's it for today with At Work with Howard Levitt. If you want to meet Howard and his team, the best place to start is at levittllp.com. You'll find all kinds of information, including how to request a consultation. I'm Stephanie Matisse. Thanks for listening.